Miley Cyrus tried to diss Michelle Bachmann on SNL, but I saw it as a compliment. As far as I'm concerned, it took Miley dressing up like Michelle Bachmann to look like a grown woman with some class.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
So, Miley's new image seems like she wants to be the poster child for glamorizing teenage sex trafficking. I marvel at the hypocrisy of liberals. Miley's antics made it all the way up the diva totem pole to Cher, who looked down her nose at Miley's stick figure stunt, and for the most shallow reasons. But despite the thumbs down Miley got from the liberals in the industry, her actions are now redeemable because she dresses up like a Republican to do it. Miley thinks she's clowning Michelle Bachmann. Really? One of these days, when Miley's all grown up, she'll realize that she dissed herself. Because what did she try to do to disgrace Michelle Bachmann? She tried to portray Michelle Bachmann acting like Miley Cyrus. And I agree, Miley, that is a huge insult. Miley Cyrus is like the girl who was really popular in high school, but didn't get to enjoy that rollover popularity in college. And since she doesn't have the vocal chops to compete with grown women, she resorts to cheap actions with expensive productions to get attention. Like a lot of liberals, Miley Cyrus is an unwitting agent of the state promoting the idea that government should be in control of us. These liberals want to accuse and ridicule Republicans for trying to keep the government from using healthcare as a means to subjugate the American people. But they don't see Obama's administration as ridiculous and childish for doing things like shutting down memorials and gypping our vets at the VA. They don't have the money to keep open-air memorials open, but they have enough money to pay guards to keep them closed. Travel generates revenue, but I guess it's more important for this administration to take revenue than it is for people to make revenue. And it's more important for this administration to spend our revenue than it is for us to spend our own. And the Democrats, as they've always done, do these things and accuse Republicans for it. Like a person who poisons the water accuses someone else of doing it and then throws on a doctor's coat saying that they have the remedy for what the Republicans have poisoned you with. See, people like Miley have been seduced by the dark side and want fame by appealing to people who perceive Republicans as money-motivated monsters who want to destroy the poor. Just because we understand that you don't help the poor by helping them to be comfortable with their poverty. You don't help the poor by making the American people subjects of the state who will control what we buy and sell. And people think we Christians are crazy because we point to the Bible where it warns of the days that will come when what we buy and sell will be controlled. And if administrations like this will go as far as to use the IRS to identify you to make sure you're falling in line with their agenda, you think they won't resort to a chip to mark you to make sure they can control what you buy or sell? And Miley Cyrus is like the skinny little pipe that the piper is blowing through to lead us there. She's not the only one. There's a legion of these people out there that we're up against. And contrary to what liberals like Juan William says, it's totally immoral to impose this on us. It is immoral and unfair to force an expense onto someone else for the so-called welfare of someone else. If Democrats are all about fairness, then they're totally contradicting themselves. Juan Williams wants to make the far-reaching comparisons about the government sending people to war for the greater good, to show that as an example of why this bill is a moral bill for the greater good, which means Juan can't really tell what our government is for. First of all, our military men and women volunteer their service for the greater good. This bill is being forced onto us for the so-called greater good. Our military is for the purpose of defending against people who force their ideas of the so-called greater good. And of course, when we defend ourselves and others from people like this, we get accused of being the ones trying to force our ideas of the greater good. Always remember, guys, when a criminal gets dealt with, they usually feel like the victim. See, Juan Williams is a prime example of why this is a republic, not a democracy. We live by the rule of good law, or we used to, not by majority rule. Because what do you think the majority is gonna vote for? A majority who thinks like Juan will assume it's okay to impose upon others for the greater good, which will lead to the collapse of our nation as everyone assumes to take from others for their benefit. Because many people think that the greater good starts with them. while self-righteously saying it's about everybody. That's why we have a republic with the rule of law. And one of those laws is that nobody shall be deprived of their property, which means you can't force property away from someone else for the so-called greater good. That's the rule. And of course, it's a rule that Democrats ignore because they have a twisted and hypocritical view of what is fair. And don't listen to these Democrats who are trying to intimidate us by saying that this bill is a law. Just because it's a so-called law doesn't mean it's permanent. It's bad law, and it can be junked. Democrats used to say slavery was the law in America too. Well, Republicans said, I got your law right here. Your law violates good law, in that nobody shall be deprived of liberty. We're ending slavery. Democrats said that it was the law that blacks can't vote. Republicans put the boots to that law too. And as usual, the Democrats are hell-bent on imposing bad and oppressive laws on people under the guise of the greater good. Remember, y'all, Democrats claim that slavery was for the greater good. Blacks not being able to vote, be educated, anti-miscegenation, eugenics, etc. was for the greater good. Hitler had an idea what the greater good was too. Now there's people falling under their assertion that their healthcare policies are for the greater good. And you fail to see how much power you've given the Democrats over you by allowing them to be in control of healthcare. I'm Alfonso Rachel with ZoNation, and isn't it sad that Democrats can actually use people like Miley Cyrus, whose tongue is bigger than her butt, to help maintain prejudice against the Republican Party? The Democrats promote prejudice and policy with the profane. And I was just as disappointed to see a panel on Hannity where it was expressed that nobody watches this stuff. Many Republicans still don't understand that a large part of why they're having such a hard time with the opposition is because they keep underestimating the opposition and the influence the opposition has. I got your law right here.